So just recently, Gizmodo published a very interesting article about PS5 and Project Scarlett, with one very big caveat here, being that they claimed their leaker sent them pictures of the PS5 dev kit before the ones leaked out online that we know of right now. So, in the interest of time and not making our Friday video too long, because there really is so much going on between Shawn Layden leaving, Atsushi Morita retiring, the PS Now price drop, crossplay open, Jim Ryan's making some good statements. We have a lot to go over, but we can do that on Friday and not have a 35-40 minute video. And I've mentioned if it's really interesting PS5 news, we'll try and cover it immediately, so that's what we're doing right now. Before we start, as always, it's a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. This is not coming directly from Sony. Now, the article in question is pretty interesting because it starts off by actually stating this leaker, we can't authenticate their identity 100%. They claim to be at a third-party developer working on a game for both next-generation platforms. But the reason why we're running with this story, despite not knowing their identity, is because they provided us an image of the PS5 dev kit before it leaked online. Now remember, the PS5 dev kit that we know of so far is really just a figure from a patent registry, so it's just one of those crude little figures that you typically see on those forums. And then Let's Go Digital went on to make a really souped-up, filled-in version of what it might look like, which is kind of ridiculous because it makes it a bit too flashy when realistically dev kits are much more basic looking. But the real meat and potatoes to that one is that one developer sent out a tweet stating, "Oh yeah, we have some of those in the office," and then his account was quickly deleted. And for good reason. Things like that, when it happens, adds a pretty good level of credibility because new hardware, I mean, secrecy is a really big deal. I mean, legality, it's a very big deal. You know, a lot of people are held accountable when they accept bringing these devices into the office. So it's you know, you can be in big trouble even referencing this stuff if it turns out to be true, right? And so now we've got a scenario where Gizmodo apparently has been provided images that look just like this PS5 dev kit well before that this thing actually showed up online. Now, Gizmodo won't reveal the images, and they say that because they don't want to put this potential person at risk. Despite not knowing them, they don't want to, put this individual at risk. And Gizmodo claims that the images themselves are very low resolution. One of them, the color balance is way off so that the actual device doesn't have any reflections on it to give way of where this picture was taken and the individual that took the picture. So they're claiming that the images aren't all that great, but you can make out what it is. And so they're saying it's very much so what you'd expect from a typical dev kit. It's made of plastic. It's got some standard little LED indicators, a eject button, a Blu-ray drive. They can make out simple details like that, but there's also labels on it saying prototype, not for sale. Now, I know some people still get pretty jazzed up about this design inherently, and they think it's the real PS5. It's not the case. It's a dev kit. You may see certain design elements or design language carry over into the retail box, but you would have to figure this thing's going to dramatically change by the time it actually looks like a consumer unit that we can buy. So let's kind of clear that up right now. This is in no way, shape, or form finalized. So getting into more details about the rumor itself, the leaker claims that the dev kits have been out as early as 2018, but this recent wave of ones that we're looking at right now have been in people's hands since this summer. The big kicker here is that it's apparently codenamed Prospero, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Prospero is the name of the protagonist in Shakespeare's play, The Tempest. Now here's where it gets deep, and there's multiple layers to this. If you remember back in January, or it was December, but we discussed a leak on Let's Talk PlayStation where it wasn't even a leak, it was a data miner. Tom Apisak on Twitter, he does this a lot with a lot of AMD stuff, but they data mined an AMD product code, or a product serial number, and it was codenamed Gonzalo. And in one of the characters in that product lineup, it kind of implied that it was a semi-custom chip, possibly for a games console, not necessarily your typical run-of-the-mill next-generation PC parts. And Gonzala is a character in The Tempest, the Shakespeare play. There's another chip that they data mined, codenamed Ariel. That's another character in the play, The Tempest. And so when we piece a lot of this together, and we've got this weird anonymity from this leaker, seems like there's multiple people involved. We've got a developer that lost their account because they said, oh yeah, those are the real dev kits. So, as much of a rumor as this definitely is, you kind of have to say, all right, well, this is further and further away from being a coincidence. And also, this is just typically the norm with next generation launches, well before that they even get really revealed. A lot of that paste bin stuff actually turned out to be true. We didn't have final clock speeds or anything like that, but the paste bin stuff seemed right on par once Sony announced informally PS5 on the Wired.com article. Now the 4chan stuff, yeah, that was kind of a bum thing at this point, but you know, there's going to be hit or misses, but it seems like a lot of the information we're getting right now is getting pieced together quite nicely. So maybe PS5's codename is in fact Prospero, or Prospero, however you say it. So beyond all those claims, the leaker also went on to say that this will be the greatest compute jump in any console. Then they go on to claim that both Prospero and Scarlett are going to have an emphasis and focus and support on high-quality cameras for live streaming, even more so on the Microsoft side, apparently. The leaker claims that Microsoft is working on a 4K high-quality camera that has a very low 2 millisecond latency between playing the game, recording the game, sending it out on stream. An emphasis on how Microsoft's been pretty big with Mixer lately and how they're courting all these Twitch streamers over. I mean, they paid big money to get Ninja over there, and I guess they're doing this with more individuals as well. So it seems like Microsoft's really eyeing up the streaming capabilities of the future and trying to make the console much more robust, because while PS4 and Xbox One can stream video games, it's not all that good, and most people don't use their consoles. You know, if they're going to stream a console or stream PC games, I mean, they do it from their PC, where they have much more control over their feed, overlays, things like that. And so the article says that the leaker is making a case for how Microsoft and even Sony are exploring better ways to turn consoles into a streamer's platform, where it'll be an all-in-one machine that can handle things like that. So not necessarily just streaming the game, but also handling some lighting effects, handling some overlays. Apparently Microsoft is demoing this with Snapchat-like filters that can make your feed a little bit more interesting beyond what it looks like right now, which is pretty bare bones. The leak claims that what Sony's doing with the camera stuff isn't nearly as robust, or it's using older technology. And that's essentially it. Now, we have one update, being that a Microsoft spokesperson responded saying that it wasn't true and that there's no camera technology in development, or no developers have any. And so take that for what it is. Microsoft's not going to confirm that, certainly, but usually you'd see them say, you know, we don't comment on rumors, or the company just wouldn't comment at all, which is what Sony did. Sony has not responded to comment about any of this. Typically, they'll always just send out a blank statement of, we don't comment on rumor and speculation. That's their go-to for literally everything. They don't confirm anything. They don't deny anything, but they will say something, and it will be a statement in some way, shape, or form in lines with what I just said. But they haven't said anything just yet. The article and the leaker don't mention anything about the camera, you know, being bundled in or being separate. I don't think Sony would do a bundled-in camera if they are working on a camera, which they, to be honest, they surely are working on a next-generation camera. That's not necessarily surprising. We don't know what PlayStation VR 2 looks like. It may still use a camera. It probably will, in all likelihood, have some sort of very nice camera that you can use, and it can be used for recording gameplay. It can be used for PlayStation VR. I mean, or maybe they'll finally incorporate video chat again. Who knows, right? There's going to be accessories being built for these machines. The Microsoft thing, I don't know. I'm somewhat indifferent, because I look at that and I go, boy, don't you think these guys would have learned their lesson doing something like that? But it does make a lot of sense given what they're doing with Mixer and really trying to push it. And so maybe that makes a pretty good case for keeping consoles somewhat relevant in a world where people are going digital, where people are going to their PCs, trying to make these things much more compelling, is saying, look, if you can't afford a $1,500 computer that can be an all-in-one streaming, a streaming setup, I mean, we can sell you one right now for $500 where it's good to go, gives you all those filters, all those settings, give you some nice text overlays. That seems like a Microsoft thing to do, but you would think they wouldn't want to be in a situation where they put out a console that is bundled with another camera, but maybe they won't, right? It would come out just as is and wouldn't have a camera. Or maybe what Microsoft's saying is true, and that's not what they're doing right now. But given the circumstances of this rumor, I'm obviously leaning a little bit more towards it possibly being true in one way or another. But at the end of the day, these consoles are still over a year out from actually being released, and so there's still a lot that can be changed. But to that same effect, because it's brand new hardware, these aren't things where changes are taken lightly. I mean, there's definitely plans that are put in place years in advance, and at a certain point, the green light is well beyond when they actually hit retail. So these things are already in motion, and so whatever's going on is probably going to go on straight to retail. In terms of the leaker claiming this is the biggest jump in compute power, you know, what do you really want to say about that? I mean, we're at a point of diminishing returns. Games look absolutely beautiful. They look gorgeous, but they can't, you know, as much of a actual technical on paper jump as it would be from PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. You're still going to see somewhat, I don't know, superficial things today, or like, you know, that's why the SSD might be much more exciting than anything else, because the SSD will allow for extremely fast load times in and out of buildings, allowing more on-screen enemies, allowing a vast open world that doesn't chug along, so you're getting hopefully more stable frame rates, definitely higher resolutions. I know people keep claiming they want 4K 60 frames. I always tell you guys, you could have got it whenever you wanted it. Developers always like to push their games to the absolute max in terms of visual fidelity, texture detail. You know, it's always on the developer. We had 1080p 60 frames per second games on launch day on PlayStation 3. We've had 60 FPS games on PlayStation 2. There was a 1080i game on PS2. Frame rate resolution, it's always kind of a mixed bag. So developers are going to do what developers are going to do. I think the big takeaway with this article is that this is the first we're hearing about camera stuff, right? I mean, we've had lots of stuff, again, from Pastebin and 4chan talking about specs, the SSD. We've never heard about cameras before, or a big focus on live streamers and going for live streaming. And who knows just how big of a focus that ends up being. Surely these things are going to capitalize a little bit further on their sharing capabilities. That's exactly what happened when PS4 and Xbox One came out. They could record gameplay. You had the easy share button right on the DualShock 4. It's going to send it right to Twitter, YouTube, wherever you want to put it. They could live stream. So yeah, I mean, you're going to see more robust features, but you know, are they really in the interest of courting streamers to game consoles and trying to make them the best place to do live streaming or the best cost-effective place? I don't know. I don't really think that would be in their I don't think that would really make a whole lot of sense. But again, it could be very secondary to the whole overarching theme of these machines, which is they come out at $500 some odd. They're very powerful. They deliver some breathtaking games. You've got extremely low, extremely fast load times. And hey, all that streaming and sharing stuff that you love so much from before, it's here and then some. But anyway, that's about it for that rumor. That's everything you need to know. And if you haven't, subscribe and hit the notification bell for the latest PlayStation 5 news and updates. You know we keep it locked and loaded here on this channel. And follow on Twitter at Mystic Ryan for these impromptu update videos or Q&As, things like that. And I'm loving the cat pictures. Yes, send me more of those. Any animals you got, send them my way at Mystic Ryan. Awesome. So I will see you on Friday for Let's Talk PlayStation, and you take it easy.